Hey, what's up, everybody? Time for another game theory community sort of discussion video. If you like the videos, like, sub, silly comment, share, support the channel. If you want, I appreciate it. Thanks. Super chat, PayPal, Patreon, whatever. If you want to support the channel, it does help. I appreciate it. Thank you. So I want to talk about today, again, why execution matters and talking about button binding and macroing. And people have been talking about these motion inputs and everything like this. And I've said before so many times, people don't want to admit, or some people, right, don't want to admit that execution is a part of what makes you good at a fighting game, okay? And they want to take it away. They want the gold star for doing nothing, right? The math, the super analytical math nerd doesn't want any dexterity or anything that doesn't involve their brain. They don't want that to be part of the equation of why they might lose a match, right? And I'm going to give many different examples showing why execution is a skill, okay? Even if we take a look at something like, say, Street Fighter 2, right? Say we got 6 buttons right here, right? Well, think about something like Balrog, his turn punch, holding 3 punches, right? Now, I don't know about you. There are some pretty weird people out here nowadays, but I don't know about you. But I only got 5 fingers, right? So if I'm playing Balrog and I want to hold either 3 kicks or 3 punches, that is obviously very skillful dexterity. That's dexterity speaking wise. That takes some skill to do. Am I going to do it with my palm and then try to press the buttons like this? Am I going to try to do this? What are you going to do? Are you trying to tell me, when people try to say that button binding and macroing don't matter, if I have an extra button right here, then on the side, and I can just hold this down to get 3 punches or 3 kicks, how can you tell me that's fair? Is that not like, how do you beat that argument, right? When moves consist of 2 buttons or 3 buttons or more, whatever it might be, if you make it 1 button, like over here, there is no chance of missing it, dude. Okay? And I'm gonna get into the motion inputs as well with 1 button, but I'm focusing on just the button binding and macroing, you know, rent-free copism that people think it's the same thing as actually pressing it. If you press 1 button right here, dude, you cannot miss 1 button. Okay? When you think about me doing stuff and like all those combo videos throughout the years, right? Which, remember, I've actually had surgery on my hands, okay? I've dislocated nerves in my body. My doctors still are trying to give me more shots just for the pinched nerves going down my arms. And guess what? You know what I mean? When I've done all these combo videos, that people till this day still try to recreate. They try to recreate it with using tasks even, not even just button binary macro. Some people try to use tasks to even recreate it, right? I've done it by hand. Even in real matches, right? I've shown myself in, you know, on the webcam doing it with my hands. What is your excuse? But again, even if you think about something, say like Kai's Impossible combo, guess what? I had to teach myself to do that, right? Like this isn't the PlayStation controller that I did it on. And if you watch the videos, I had to teach myself to be able to move my fingers, right? Like this, hit every button and do like a little flick like that, right? That was so unbelievable to the community that it was basically called the Impossible Combo. People said that I came up with it. It was called the Impossible Combo. It was people who were saying it was impossible and I must be cheating to do it, right? Which again, you can go look at the forums. I actually got banned because they said I must be cheating. It could not be real. It's 2025 right now, June 15th. People still are trying to recreate all this kind of stuff that I've done in games, right? But again, if you just have 1 button right there, you cannot miss the RC, right? Just like in Guilty Gear, something like that. If you were FDing or doing any RC, whatever it might be, there's no potential miss if it's always 1 button, okay? I know people get mad and they want to pretend that execution isn't a part of skill, but it is. Just like if you were like, you want us to believe that, you know, with esports and everything like that, people are getting paid for this, you know, you want us to believe this is a real sport. Well, guess what? If you were to go play a professional sport, do the other players, do they not have to practice? right? Do you think someone just becomes a pro NHL player and they've never had to practice, right? Even if let's use a weird example. Let's say like a basketball player. The dude is really tall, right? Hey, you're made for basketball. Let's say you're a nerd. You're made for this. You're made for this is, you know what? You're made for video games. You're a nerd. You should play video games. But guess what? Even the tall dude, guess what? He probably is going to have to practice. He's probably going to have to practice shooting. His shot isn't automatically going to go in or anything like that, right? Just like when we think about, there's like rules for the equipment that you can use in sports. This is cheating here. This equipment is too big here. Whatever it might be, right? Button binding and macroing is cheating, okay? I don't care. This, and I said this before, it went from being a courtesy to a pad player to something that people actually use to exploit, right? Courtesy to a pad player to now people use it to just exploit and as like a coping thing. Like, oh, I'm doing the same thing as you. No, you're not. You're not doing the same thing as me, right? And a funny thing is too, and I've used this argument before as well, you have people that used to hate Street Fighter. Street Fighter 6 has too many buttons, or Street Fighter 2 has too many buttons. And then guess what? Then they got rid of buttons, had only 4 buttons. But because there's only 4 buttons, let's say SNK game or whatever it might be, inevitably we have to have like 2 buttons for a roll or whatever it might be. Or if it's Guilty Gear is only 5 buttons or something like that. Inevitably, because there's less buttons, now we have to have multiple button pressings, right? But then the nerd that thinks that they should automatically be good at a game. Oh, Guilty Gear, this is such an amazing game. Not like Street Fighter. This is so math. This is so anime. It's so technical. All this frame data. It's so great. But then those nerds saw that, you know what? Execution is a part of games. And you know what those nerds did? Not only were those nerds that complained that 6 buttons was too much for a game, not only those nerds that complained that Street Fighter 2 wasn't that skillful and Guilty Gear is the most skillful game ever. Well, guess what? They saw that execution was a part of games. And so you know what they did? The same players that thought 6 buttons was too much, guess what? They added 8 buttons. Because now, oh, well, I want to build a macro this here for this button. I want to build a macro this here for this button. It's a fucking cope, dude. It's ridiculous. People don't want to admit that execution is a part of games. If execution wasn't a part of games, why do you need the button bind and macro? Okay? And what is your excuse? Not everyone's even a pad player. Like I said, it went from a courtesy to a pad player, right? To now just, oh, well, we have hitboxes and hurtboxes and all this kind of stuff. And another thing for motion inputs, I've said this before as well, motions are tied to how hard a move is to do, like to the actual reward for the move, right? An example I've used before is, think about a game like Street Fighter 4, right? Which is pretty amazing, right? Let's think back to the days of Street Fighter 2. People complained that Dragon Punches were too good, too invincible, too much of an influence on the match. Something simple has too much of an influence on the match, right? Shouldn't be invincible, right? You get to Street Fighter 4. Isn't it amazing? And this is why I say that the ability and ease of use of doing something, is tied to how powerful something can be. Dragon Punches, if you were to go by invincibility and all this other kind of stuff in Street Fighter 4, guess what? It's not as good as Street Fighter 2. But you know what? When Street Fighter 4 came out, guess what? I remember a lot of fucking people complained that Dragon Punches are too fucking good, right? Even though they're not as invincible as old school games. Because guess what? Now the motion to do them was so lenient, even though they were less invincible, you couldn't really miss them, right? People could just mash them. Yes, I know there's FDC and all this kind of stuff, but let's just forget about that. Just people were complaining about Dragon Punches, period. Street Fighter 5, right? People complain that Dragon Punches, even though Dragon Punches aren't as invincible, right? Even though that's why these nerdy players complained that back in the day, Dragon Punches, they break the game because they're invincible, all this kind of stuff, whatever. They're less invincible in Street Fighter 5, right? And yet, because of the ease of use, people would complain about them. Or just the meta of the game, let's say, right? I don't like that you have an invincible move that I don't. People will always try to come up with some kind of bullshit to make an excuse for their loss, right? They don't want execution to be a part of games, right? They want it to be like, oh, my brain, I must be the smartest person ever. We just showed that supposed Street Fighter experts didn't know that you could reversal in Street Fighter 4. Like, what kind of brain rot is that? Like, total revisionist history or something like that? I know someone posted in the comments. I didn't even think about that. Maybe some content creator has been like, oh, old game bad, new game good, whatever. And so they must think that you couldn't reversal in Street Fighter 4 or some shit. Street Fighter 4 that has technical get-ups and reversal backdashing and all this kind of stuff, dude. Absolute cope. And again, you think about that people, they want to pretend that they deserve the gold star, that they must be the smartest player ever, right? I'm so much smarter. I deserve to win. I'm only being held back because this game takes execution. If this game didn't take execution, if there wasn't any dexterity, I would be the winner. Well, guess what? You also want to say it's a sport. You also want to say it's a sport and you want clout for doing all these things, right? You want to make money off of video games. But then you don't want to actually be held to the same standard as a sport that actually takes more than just your brain. In sports, are there not smart players, right? Of course there's smart players, right? But maybe there's the smart player that, guess what? He wasn't actually good at the sport. So you know what? He just became the coach. Isn't that true? How many people, there's probably people like that. They became the coach because they're not actually good at the sport they like. They don't have the dexterity. They don't have the skill set, the physical ability, right? You want to take out the physical ability of playing a video game, right? And so many times as well, people don't want to admit that they're just not that fucking smart. Do you know who the person is? And I know someone's going to get pissed off when I say it. Do you know who the person is that has discovered more tech than anyone else in the history of fighting games? That has predicted all the meta of these games, right? That has come up with all this tech from simple foundational stuff, changed the meta and the perspective on all of fighting games, right? To the actual complicated stuff that people still try to recreate to this day. 2025, I'm still putting out stuff that no one else has ever done. People are still trying to recreate the stuff I've done with tasks and all this kind of nonsense shit. Do you know who the person that had the brains to do that? It's this retard right here. Okay. So I'm going to be honest. You people that think you're that smart, you're not that smart either. Let's be honest with yourself. Look in the mirror. You've been outperformed by me. And I'm pretty goddamn dumb. I'm going to be honest. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I hate to say it. I'm not that smart. And I've outperformed you guys, right? I've had physical disabilities, or have had, I should say I have, right? Right? I'm still in physical therapy all the time. They still want to give me that. They still talk about, I don't want to do surgery again, but, right? I actually have a physical disability, an excuse, right? And I've still done this stuff. My brain is, I'm not that smart. And I've still thought of stuff and come up with stuff that no one else has ever had, right? Maybe the problem is you. And these motion inputs, like I said, they're tied to how effective a move can be. When a move is easier, guess what? Even if by the frame data wise, you would look at the frame data and be like, wow, dragon punches are better in Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 4, guess what? People sure as fuck complained about dragon punches, even though they weren't as invincible as Street Fighter 2, right? Again, I know there's FTC and there of course is other things as well, right? Do you think a spinning pile driver should just be a fireball motion? Right? When things are easier to do, when you can't miss it, which is why I related to button binding and macroing, when you cannot miss something, that changes the effectiveness of a move. Maybe Balrog's tap and all this kind of stuff is supposed to be dexterity. There you go. See, you're getting beat by this retard. I can't even speak English and you're getting beat by me. That must make you feel bad, right? Don't even speak English and you've been beat by me, right? I don't know, man. Emotions are a part of games, dude. People trying to get rid of it. It's sad because then guess what? I mean, if you're getting rid of motions, then it's like you're taking away like the risk reward for doing the move. Maybe a move is supposed to be harder to do. Maybe that's tied to its effectiveness, right? When something is simpler to do, there's no chance of missing it. Then you have to all rework the damage and the different properties of this move, right? You wouldn't want a dragon punch and Super Turbo. You probably wouldn't want a dragon punch just to be like, just just to be able to master Dragon Punch and Super Turbo. That's not me saying that Super Turbo doesn't have problems with, there's no excuse for a move being random to do in Super Turbo. I know, obviously I glaze up Super Turbo a lot, but I'm not saying that Super Turbo you should be able to, or I'm not saying that a move should be random in terms of doing it in Super Turbo. I don't agree with randomness, right? But I digress. Anyway, if you like the videos, like, sub, silly comment, share, support the channel if you want. Appreciate it. Thanks. The end.